Welcome to the Intra Africa Trade Fair in collaboration with the Africa Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, which pretty much stands as a shock absorber that Africa needs to build trade within the continent. And that's according to Afreximbank President Benedict Orama. I am Ojy Okpe, live from Cairo, bringing you all the panel discussions in entertainment, art, fashion, and design. This year's Creative Africa Nexus, CANEX, an initiative by Afreximbank, which features panel discussions to support Africa and African diaspora's creative and cultural industries by providing financing and non-financing instruments to boost growth, kicked off on November 9th to run through November 15th. It is a 7-day summit intended to further develop conversations and provide additional business-to-business and business-to-government opportunities. It includes a fashion show featuring a range of bold and exciting designs from across Africa and the diaspora, and a CANEX music factory hosted by renowned South African producer Oskido. At the panel discussion on designing for change and fashion with a purpose, fashion industry professionals and designers from Africa and the diaspora discussed the impact of utilizing fashion design for innovation and socio-economic progress.
I realized that there was a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of fashion coming up, which was inspired by Africa, but not made in Africa. None of it being acknowledged, no credit being given, and definitely none of the financial benefits of the African origins being shared with Africa.
I spoke with some of the designers that have been making tremendous impact on the continent of Africa, including Olushola Babatunde, founder and CEO of One Stop Celebration, who has made remarkable strides in the Nigerian fashion industry. A company, One Stop Celebration, OSC, is certified women-owned company encompassing consultancy, a garment production company, a Pan-African fashion training college, and its own clothing line. Now, what's the inspiration behind this multifaceted brand as it appears?
Okay, so for me, this is a calling, it's a passion to ensure that Nigeria is placed on the international map, and that every Nigerian youth, woman, boy, child, or anyone, even those who are physically challenged, can play their own part in the industry, can find something to do that will make them proud, will earn economic empowerment for the women, and even as a nation could even earn us foreign exchange. So we don't always have to look out there. If we look inwards with the numbers that we have, hardworking youths, they just need to be skilled and trained, and the sky is the limit to what they can do.
I think the big question is about funding and how to get more funding into the fashion industry. Did you get a sense that that happened during this panel session?
So, it's a very interesting question. I mean, when it comes to the funding conversation, I feel like every industry will say their industry is more important and so deserves funding. Again, going back to my last point, I feel like to be seen and heard is a first starting point to understand what we go through. The next phase is to encourage and improve these conversations. It will take us a while for us to even build the mindsets to get ready to accept funding.
The icing on the cake was a fireside chat with Nobel Laureate, playwright and novelist, Professor Wole Soyinka, who unveiled his new novel, Chronicles From the Land of the Happiest People on Earth. He spoke about his array of literary works, including dabbling in fashion, music, and his collection of Dane guns. Professor Soyinka, who has been a strong advocate for culture and the use of proper language, also condemned what he called a new wave of internet culture.
Professor Wole Soyinka, are you going to ever stop writing?
You know, I've said enough is enough so many times. I wasn't expecting to write this, for instance, but events and things accumulated in my mind, and then I managed to find some space where I could tackle peace of mind away from the environment which produced it. And so the book came out. So your question is a very important one. I would rather be doing very often many other things far more pleasurable than writing, because writing is not the most pleasurable of activities. So very often it's anguish, very often. But in the end, you've sort of purged yourself of accumulated debris. And that, at least, is something which one should continue doing for as long as one is capable of it.
Absolutely. Well, if you ask me, what I took away from that session was what you said about the proliferation of the internet, especially by Nigerians. Why do you feel so strongly about that?
I feel strongly. I see everything of value being debased. Values which I grew up with as a child, and that includes language, by the way, the use of language, appropriate language. When I see a space being infested, the communication space, infested by people of a lower intelligence, integrity, sense of concern, of involvement than existed in the print media. Because always remember that this internet is nothing novel about it. It's enhancement of something you've always been doing before. It's an enhancement of the print medium. And there is a more critical approach to the print medium. The editor sits down, even letters to the editor goes, that particular comes through vetting processes. But now you can have any kind of pig from the gutter who simply because he's got a paw and can therefore put that paw in dirt, in filth, and then imprint it on the nearest surface. That is what internet has begun. And having known better from childhood, all the way through my development, it's abysmal. It's an abysmal stage of one's compelled existence to have to confront things like that. I don't read, but I read things because things are sent to me that link. People will say, you need to see this. You think you've seen the worst, but take a look at this one, this mod. This is what happens these days. And something drastic has to be done about it. And the publishing enterprise has a role to play in this, a huge role to play in this. Maybe we even have to organize a real week-long, month-long seminar across the African continent. So let the garbage at least come from elsewhere. Why should it be coming from my own society?
Yes,
A society that has produced engineers, doctors, valued all over the world. Go to the Arab world, you see Nigerian doctors everywhere. Go to production places, construction sites. Go to NASA. You will see Nigerians there. And yet some garbage, simply because they have access, are now fouling up the total productivity, the complex and ennobling productivity of my society. It burns me up. And I hope I never meet any of them responsible in a dark alley. And I was showing that I can be younger than the 90 years of age.
I'm sure you can always be younger. Professor Wole Soyinka, thank you so much for talking to me.
You're welcome.
So you do strongly believe in the regulation of the internet, do you?
Well, you've asked, you see, that's a very, very large question. Regulation. Before I would rather discuss, say, theoretically, if you're going to regulate, who regulates it? How does it go about? Does the regulation begin from education, new education? Do we include teaching from the level of primary schools? Because even children now, they speak a language which I don't understand, internet language. Watch them at work there. I'm like an illiterate, and I would never compete with them with that. So maybe we now have to totally revise our educational system to take in this new monster, which, however, is a valuable contribution to the entire human enterprise. So when you talk about regulation, I want us to be very careful there. I don't want some dictator like this last one attempted to do, wake up and say that I'm banning Facebook. Idiot. You just wake up and say you're banning Facebook. That's nonsense. Do something constructive, methodical, structured about it, including making the criminals understand that they deserve to be somewhere else.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Such a huge honor to be in your presence.